At the end of the day, those guys are good enough players, and if they want to take somebody totally out of the game, let them do it. We've got other players too. If I'm going to get somebody the ball, he'll get the ball. Odell's going to get plenty of balls. Jarvis is going to get plenty of balls. David's going to get plenty of balls. Nick Chubb's going to run the ball enough. You know, I'm going to make everybody happy. More importantly, hopefully we win the game and it'll make everybody happy.
The countdown is on for real this time. The Browns' 2019 preseason is in the books. The regular season opener just 4 days away right here in the city of Cleveland. I'm News 5 sports anchor Jon Doss, the man to my left, Browns insider Nathan Zegura, and bookending us there, he is the best pocket square wearer in all of Cleveland. Although Rob Powers may have something to say about that. He is preseason sideline analyst Dustin Fox. Also, he does a radio show, The Bull and the Fox, on 92.3 The Fan. Gentlemen, congratulations. You survived the preseason.
We have, and it was the longest preseason I think we've ever had, because normally we're excited.
Well, they're all 4 weeks.
Yeah, who are we going to see? We're going to see the new savior of the Cleveland Browns. Listen, they're already here. We just want to see them play games that matter, and finally on Sunday, Dustin, we will see that.
Finally is the best way to put it, I think, and we're just looking forward to seeing the number one offense actually play together. Odell Beckham Jr., we haven't seen him yet in a Browns uniform on the field with Baker Mayfield in an actual game. I think people are excited about that. Nick Chubb and company, everybody on this team, and not just the offense. How about the defense too? So many new faces, and a defense that I think can be a lot better than they were a season ago.
And you talked about it. Speaking of seeing them in the uniform, the news today,
Yes.
J.W. Johnson teased it for us last week, and he said there was going to be a surprise unveiled today. The Browns are going to wear those all-brown color rush uniforms. It's going to be their primary jersey throughout the regular season.
And quite frankly, as it should be. It's the best jersey in our stable by a wide margin. It's the jersey that was worn on Thursday Night Football when the Browns started this era, turned it around. Baker Mayfield came in, led the Browns to that victory. The victory fridge is opened. Oh, by the way, the Browns were 3-0 in these uniforms a year ago. So, yeah, let's see them as much as possible. We'll start this Sunday against the Titans. Good, smart job by the NFL recognizing these are the beauts. Let's roll with them.
Dustin, look good, play good. Is that a real thing?
Look good, feel good, play good.
So by the transitive property, yes. Look good, play good.
I didn't think about that, by the way. It's been a while.
Lined up around a corner for Browns victory fridges the last couple of days. You were there.
I was there. It was insane.
Boy, the Miz was there, right?
The Miz was there. Yeah. We had JW was there. Dave Jenkins, Dave Freeman. We had all the luminaries were in the house. We pull up to this to the B.L. and Brown Superstore on West 25th. And the line went around the block all the way down to Ignatius, past the Ignatius football field. People were waiting hours and hours to get their victory fridges, and they were back again today around the corner again.
I'm just glad that I already have mine in my basement.
Same,
already.
that's what I said. Yep, me too.
Thanks to Bud Light
if that
for last
doesn't
year.
speak to the optimism and the excitement of this Browns fan base heading into maybe the most anticipated regular season ever, I don't know what will.
It's pandemonium. We're just waiting for it. Of course there's excitement. We've all been wanting to see this team do it. Heck, you mentioned Odell, Baker, Jarvis. Odell and Jarvis haven't lined up together in a game yet. The last time they did that was at LSU, and now we're going to see it on Sunday. Yes, everybody's excited. We have stars on offense, stars on defense. You took a team that went 7-8-1 after a horrific start a year ago, added 4 Pro Bowlers to it. Now we just want to see it. Enough with the on paper, enough with the hype, enough with the thoughts. Now it's real. We're going to get to see the Cleveland Browns on Sunday.
Dustin, you mentioned already, it's not just that offense. That Browns defense has a chance to be maybe the best in the NFL.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think that you add Myles Garrett combined with Olivier Vernon, those two bookend defensive ends are going to wreak havoc on opposing quarterbacks. You saw that, I think, a glimpse down in Tampa Bay with all the different twists and stunts that they were running, getting after Jameis Winston. I think, how many sacks they had in that game?
They had 7 total, 5 in the first half.
Yeah, it was incredible to watch that defense. I thought it was just kind of a glimpse of what we're going to see come the regular season. And then just all the other inside. How about the interior of the defensive line, adding Sheldon Richardson? If Ogunjobi can stay healthy. Remember last year, Ogunjobi, who's a terrific player, was playing with basically a torn tricep for the second half of the season, or a significant portion of the second half of the year. So I'm looking forward to it. I think defense is going to be a heck of a lot better. I know they had a ton of turnovers last year, but they gave up a lot of yards. And I think this defense will be much better, certainly against the run, too.
If you watch Hard Knocks, John Gruden, what did he say about Olivier Vernon? He eats what? He eats glass?
He eats glass.
Is that what he said?
That's right. Well, and Deborah Lawrence told us, he said the one guy The
Yeah,
Browns
street
players
fight. Yeah.
voted that Devereaux Lawrence is the guy they would want to go into a street fight with. And we asked Devereaux Lawrence, who's the guy you would want on your side in a street fight? He said Olivier Vernon. Said, I wouldn't mess with that guy. When you're that quiet, you don't want to mess with guys
I
that
wouldn't
quiet.
mind having Austin Seibert in my street gang. Strongest leg.
Good effort.
You got to kick.
Maybe
Kicking's
the
important.
Scottish Hammer if you're talking about a
You
specialist.
take the Scottish Hammer
Hammer's
because
got
you know
the
he
leg
can,
and the pipes.
Exactly. He's
I
got
was
the
a
pipes.
rugby
But
player.
guys, this is something Nathan and you and I talked about this in the pregame show all preseason. You got all these stars on both offense and defense, and this is something we're going to talk about later in the show. Special teams is going to play a really big role in this team this year.
Yeah, and clearly they're leaning on the expertise of their special teams coordinator, Mike Prefer. When you make a decision, obviously Austin Seibert went out, won the job, went 8 for 8 his last 2 weeks, kicking field goals, 6 for 6 and 2 for 2 on the extra points. The decision to go with the Scottish Hammer over the veteran Britton Colquitt, a near and dear friend, it certainly surprised me, but I think it says a lot about, look, we love this kid's upside. Yeah. He can be here for a long time. There is a financial benefit, and at the end of the day, it is a business, but it also says we know in Mike Prefer we have one of the premier special teams coordinators in the NFL, and we're going to count on him to get our young guys where they need to be. And I think the Scottish Hammer showed the ability to boom it. Now we're going to find out, though, in real situations, can he get the hold down when he needs to? He did great with that in the preseason. And then can he be the guy with those coffin corner kicks that were a Colquitt specialty?
But how many times can you say, hey, we're about to punt. I can't go get a beer at halftime. I can't go get a beer. I can't get up from my seat. I have to watch this guy
watch TV now,
punt the football and maybe run down and take someone's head off. I don't know. This guy's a rugby player. So he's obviously somebody who wants to be a part of the team. He joked with us, Nathan, about his net punt average and how if guys are returning the football, it hurts him. And he knows the stats and how the net average is such a vital key to the offense's success that he gets it. So, hey, look, a lot of pressure on him, but he has earned the job. And I'll tell you what, some of those 70-yard punts, get used to that at First Energy Stadium.
Yeah, absolutely. You can flip the field position. That's a critical thing for your team.
You're telling me in a street fight you don't want somebody who can line up and kick somebody? That seems like a really important
Have
role
you
in a
seen
street fight.
Olivier Vernon's pipes and Devereaux Lawrence's arms? I mean, come on.
Me, OV, and Devereaux will take you, the Hammer, and Austin Seibert on, and we'll see how it goes.
Deal. So,
and I'll just
Freddie
stand on the
Kitchens,
side, by the way, and let them do
Freddie
the work.
Kitchens making his regular season coaching debut here in the NFL this Sunday. Do you know what his first job was in college?
I do. He was like Larry David, slinging
You
cars.
didn't help the tease, Nathan.
Here's our News 5's Derek Fox.
So on game days, we're used to Freddie Kitchens wearing the long sleeve orange Browns t-shirt, but it was many moons ago where he used to wear a suit to work, back when he was a car salesman.
I was selling cars in Tuscaloosa at Magnolia, Nissan, BMW.
Could you imagine Freddie Kitchens in a different uniform, wearing a suit, selling cars?
Was salesman of the month, 2 out of 3 months. I worked there for 3 months. And went home one night and was just not happy.
And while he may not have enjoyed it, he was good at it.
I know I was making enough money that my girlfriend at the time, which is my wife now, her and I could go out to eat dinner every night. So, so that was plenty. That was more than I ever had before.
Perhaps Kitchens has been a true salesman all his life. Clearly, he sold himself to Jon Dorsey to get the head coaching job. But maybe it's because he's always been himself, always up front with people, even when he was on the lot.
I like just being straight up and honest with people, and I'll leave it at that. I mean, like you got to be able to call bullshit on some of it, and I don't know. I'll just leave it at that. I like to tell you, I wouldn't buy this car for this much. Here's what we can give it to you for. But then you don't make any money, so you're kind of torn.
But maybe his time on the car lot would also explain one of Freddie's favorite sayings.
I tell these guys all the time, the rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield, all right, for a reason.
Now the question remains, can Freddie sell his guys on playing for him? In the little time he's had, it sure seems like it. Yeah, Freddie Kitchens, always the salesman. Hopefully he's able to sell his team this year as they look to make a push for the postseason. Guys.
All right, coming up in the show, more on this superstar-studded offense for the Browns. Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., Jarvis Landry, Nick Chubb, and more. That's next on the Browns Countdown. The big question for this Browns offense this year, are there enough footballs to go around? With more on that, here's Derek Forrest.
So we've heard the saying before when it comes to other football teams, but how many times do we hear this about the Browns? Are there too many footballs to go around? Well, if you ask Freddie Kitchens, he's smiling from ear to ear.
Odell's going to get plenty of balls. Jarvis is going to get plenty of balls. David's going to get plenty of balls. Nick Chubb's going to run the ball enough. I'm going to make everybody happy. So, more importantly, hopefully we win the game and it'll make everybody happy.
This seems like an easy concept, but it's really hard to do. But one thing is for sure, having all of this talent on the offensive side of the ball will make it hard to defend for the opposing team.
When you start talking about number of balls, I'm not worried about that. They're good enough players. They'll get their balls.
It will be hard to just key on one or two guys on the offensive side of the ball. And if a team starts to figure things out, Kitchen says the offense will just have to evolve.
We evolved from the first game to the 8th game last year, just like we evolved from the 8th game to the end of the season. We weren't the same team. So it's never ending. It's always evolving, who you are, who you're going to become. But you're right about one thing, you have to have a set vision to begin with, and I think we've got that.
Well, the Browns' first test will come this Sunday afternoon as they host the Tennessee Titans right here at First Energy Stadium. Only time will tell if Freddie will evolve. Guys?
Now my pocket feels naked now. Derek has a pocket square. You guys are having pocket squares.
Join the club, bro.
We'll take Rob Powers.
Hey, welcome back into the Browns Countdown. I should.
He's got a collection in there.
Saw him.
Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Dustin Fox. Guys, we can talk all we want about all the other pieces. Really, everybody's showing up Sunday to see Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jarvis Landry. These are the three guys that we've looked forward to seeing on the field together for the first time all offseason.
Yeah, and for Odell and Jarvis, it's kind of a dream come true, the opportunity to play with the best friends, something they haven't done since the days at LSU. And, of course, for Baker Mayfield, how he develops coming off of that record-setting rookie season where he threw the 27 touchdowns. Everybody wants to see it. We've been dying to see it, and I think it's kind of cool in a way. We've only seen our starting defense on the field for one series in the entire preseason. They had 2 sacks in that series down in Tampa Bay. We haven't seen our starting offense on the field at all, and in some ways, I think it gives the Browns a little bit of an advantage. These guys are going to be on the same page. They've been working tirelessly. You saw it out there at every preseason game. Odell, Jarvis, Baker, throwing it around, running routes, getting on the same page, and there's really nothing for anybody to study. Nobody's ever seen this Browns offense before.
And I'm just curious to see, guys, how Jarvis Landry is affected by the addition of Odell Beckham Jr. because last year there was no one on this roster that played wide receiver that could make a defense pay attention to a receiver like Odell Beckham. So now I think all of a sudden Jarvis can play primarily in the slot, and I think there's going to be so many different options for him because every defender, every guy in the secondary, they're going to focus their eyes on number 13. And I think Jarvis has a huge year. In fact, I think he may actually have more receptions than most people think, maybe even more than Odell.
I think that's possible because, see, look, Odell's going to have a ton of yards. He's going to have a ton of touchdowns. But we finally have somebody on our team that teams have to double team. They have to game plan for. And when you just look at what we were doing over the second half of the year, you're taking Brashad Perriman out and inserting Odell Beckham. And Brashad Perriman played great for the Browns last year. But he's not Odell Beckham Jr. And that's what you've added to this, not to mention the ground game with Chubb. David Njoku, a great athlete to run down the seams. I think the Browns now, and talking to quarterbacks, and you were talking with Tim Couch about this, it gives you a lot of pre-snap tells from the defense. When they have to declare, okay, we're doubling this guy, you have an idea of the coverages you're facing, and that's going to be very helpful for Baker.
And by all accounts, Baker Mayfield has matured so much as he heads into his sophomore season here. And a big reason for that is because of how comfortable he is in that quarterback room, and Drew Stanton and now Garrett Gilbert in there with him.
Absolutely. And Freddie told us what the most important room in an NFL building is the quarterback room. And you have guys who really get along well. You've got the veteran in Stanton, and then Gilbert, who Baker's known his whole life. And by the way, kudos to the Browns. Jon Dorsey, kudos to Ryan Lindley. All 4 quarterbacks who took snaps for the Browns this preseason are on NFL rosters.
You're right.
Yeah, David Blau gets traded, right, to the Lions. They saw something in that last game maybe, or watched the film. He played pretty well down the stretch. And, I love Gilbert, though. I think he gives me a lot of confidence. I know that Stanton's the backup. I think Gilbert should be playing if Baker ever goes down, just from a pure talent standpoint. But let's knock on that wood or whatever. That Baker's going to be fine for all 17 weeks this year. But it's a good room. There's a lot of talent in there, a lot of smarts in terms of experience, in terms of Drew Stanton being able to help Baker Mayfield. You're right. It is a very, very important room, and the Browns have 3 excellent guys in that room.
And they work well together. They like each other. They get along very well. And it's not just important, it's critical to it, because so many of the duties in terms of breaking down your opponent, breaking down the film, are divvied up in that quarterback room. And to have guys you can trust, and somebody with the mind of a Drew Stanton, and I think the up-and-comer and Garrett Gilbert. And by the way, I think I agree with you. I think if there was a one-game situation, I think it would be Drew Stanton. I think if it were a long-term situation, at some point you'd see Garrett Gilbert. I think their goal is to have Garrett Gilbert become the Drew Stanton of this organization in the future.
I think he probably would be had Drew Stanton not had that prior relationship with Freddie Kitchens. And Freddie, right at this point, just feels really comfortable with him because he knows the system. And I think just for a one-game standpoint, he knows that Drew can go out there and get the job done.
Got a winning record.
And manage the game.
Yep.
I hate to say that, but it's true. Yeah. If it was a one-game thing, throw Drew out there, let him manage it and get through it.
If we look deeper at that wide receiver room, that was one of the real fun competitions there the last couple of preseason games. Who was going to earn those last couple of spots? Turns out none of them did.
Yeah, we talked about it on the countdown. You know, it was the 5th and 6th receiver spots were open for grabs and up for grabs. And we thought at the time it would come down to Derek Willis, Braxton Miller, who was here for a little bit, Ishmael Hyman, and before that, Jalen Strong. He was released. DJ Montgomery goes on IR. And Freddie told you all along, don't count the numbers in your room. You're competing against the entire NFL. And I think they made an aggressive move. They go out and they get Taywan Taylor from Tennessee, because you look at our receiving core, but after the top 3 with Callaway suspended, you've got Ratley, who missed basically the entire preseason, coming into his second year at 13 catches for 144 yards as a rookie. They needed somebody with some experience. And by the way, Taylor can take the top off of defense, has catches of over 50 yards each of his first years. And I think it'd be kind of what Callaway would have been were he healthy and kind of assimilate that way.
Yeah, I think it is disappointing that Callaway is not going to be here for the first 4 games, because I think you would then have 2 speedsters, right? Two burners and Odell and Callaway. And so I think you're right with Taylor that he kind of adds that extra element that you're looking for. I was surprised, though. I thought at one point, like maybe after the second preseason game, we were talking about that room, the Tampa trip, right? We were down in Tampa. We're like, man, this. We talked to Jalen Strong right before the game, and we felt like he was a lock to make the team. Cut basically the next day, right?
Yeah, right after
the game. And then all of a sudden, hey, I think it just shows you that John Dorsey is not going to settle with a roster. He's going to obviously let these guys compete, but if there's somebody else out there on another team or that's on the waiver wire, they're going to be as aggressive as they need to be to make their team even better.
Yeah, we say he's relentlessly pursuing the improvement of this roster. And you get a guy in Taylor who had 7 special teams tackles back in 2017, so he's a guy who has that experience. And then Kaderil Hodge, you bring in 6'2", an undrafted free agent who was with the Rams. He also has a lot of special teams experience, and that's what the bottom of that receiving room has to have.
And it's not just the receivers that are talented on this team. We know this. Is this the year David Njoku in his 3rd season here in the NFL really jumps off the page?
Talent-wise, yes. Opportunity-wise, on a week-to-week basis, I don't know that it'll be there. But from a talent standpoint, he's going to have favorable matchups day after day. And if you go back to the beginning of camp, every time they were in the red zone, it was a Chiefs slam.
Yeah, he is a monster target and threat in the red zone. And I thought, guys, last year when Baker took over later in the season, Njoku seemed to make a ton of plays. It was a guy that Baker was looking towards. And for whatever reason, David Njoku seems to, make the tougher catches and the easy ones tough. And we need to clean that up a little bit. But Baker can put the ball anywhere, and I think Njoku can make those tough catches, especially in the red zone, those one-on-one matchups on the outside, where you can take the tight end and extend him away from the core, like a Gronkowski situation. You get a sizable mismatch against a smaller corner. That's where Njoku is going to be a monster in this offense.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets as well with David Njoku and Demetrius Harris, who was brought over from the Kansas City Chiefs, because he's another one. 6'7", was a basketball player. You can put it up to him in the red zone. Pharaoh Brown, a big player as well. Then they bring in Ricky Seals-Jones, and I actually like this move a lot. He was with Freddie Kitchens his rookie season with the Arizona Cardinals, averaged about 17 yards a catch as a tight end that season. Another very good athlete added into that room by John Dorsey.
All right, coming up in the show, we're going to talk about arguably Nathan's favorite player that's not Baker Mayfield. That's Nick Chubb and the Browns running backs. That's next to the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Welcome back to the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Dustin Fox. It's maybe the quietest superstar on this team, Nick Chubb. You expect him to have a big year in 2019.
He's going to have a monster year. And, you know, Freddie Kitchens loves Nick Chubb. You look in the preseason, the guys that were kind of sheltered and rested that weren't dealing with anything, nobody was more protected than Nick Chubb because he didn't have an injury like Odell did or Jarvis with some nagging things. But they didn't want to expose him. Why? Because he is going to be a huge part of this offense. Last year went over 1,000 yards, ended up right below it, didn't complain once. All he has done is gone out and worked hard. He looks so much more comfortable catching the ball, Dustin. And I think, I've said it before, after 8 games, it would not surprise me in the least if Nick Chubb is leading the National Football League in rushing.
That's a bold prediction.
Bold. Let's go.
For everybody who thinks that, you know, this offense is going to be this, high-powered, take shots down the field. I mean, for you to think that, why do you think that? Is it because Freddie is an old running backs coach and does have that little bit of old school in him?
I think he does have some of the old school in him, but what did he want to build? The toughest, most physical team, a team that could impose their will on the opponent. And how do you do that? You run the ball. And not to mention, Baker Mayfield showed as a rookie, he's tremendous off of play action, and you set that up running it. I think there are going to be games where they're going to set up the run with the pass, but there are going to be a lot of games where they feed Nick Chubb. And let's not forget, we're all expecting us to win a few games. And how do you salt those away in the fourth quarter? You turn around and hand it to Nick Chubb.
Well, and I would say this, too, to your point. I mean, you mentioned early in the season, why not just wear him out and just let him run? Because you're getting a big reinforcement in week 8, or week 9, I should say, and Kareem Hunt is going to come back and obviously have some sort of a workload when he gets back into this offense. But, like, why not? I mean, Nick Chubb last year looked like he was a top 5 back as a rookie.
Yeah.
And now, year 2, he's going to get better. Now, my only concern, I'll say this, is that I'm a little concerned about that offensive line and the continuity, especially that right guard spot. That can screw up a lot of things. And I know we'll talk probably more about that as we go here, but I am concerned a little bit about how that affects the running game.
Yeah, that is one of the big question marks, and you're right, we are going to discuss that shortly, but Nathan already said how much Freddie Kitchens loves Nick Chubb. Why not hear it directly from the Browns head coach?
Well, first and foremost now, Nick Chubb's one of the finest human beings I know. He's one of the hardest workers I know. And have you ever talked to Nick? You have? Did it take any prodding? All right, because Nick Chubb is all about work now. You want to know what the definition of keeping your head down and just going to work is. It's him. So if Kareem learns nothing other than that, that's a benefit to Kareem and a benefit to our team.
All right, so there you hear Freddie Kitchens mentioning Kareem Hunt. Guys, this is my question. Nathan, you say Nick Chubb could lead the NFL after the first 8 weeks. What have we seen from Kareem Hunt this preseason, this offseason? We don't know what we're going to get out of this guy come week 10 of the NFL season.
I have a pretty good idea. It's a guy who's got 3,000 total yards and about 28 touchdowns since he's come into the NFL in 2 seasons. And by the way, didn't even finish last season. And Cleveland fans will remember he was the AFC Offensive Player of the Week when the Chiefs and the Browns hooked up last year. He's an unbelievable dual threat talent. I think you're going to be able to create situations where they're both in the backfield. One of them flexes out. You're going to put a lot of pressure on defenses. You're going to keep Nick Chubb fresh down the stretch. Kareem Hunt is going to be fresh, and I think with a lot to prove. You're just adding a guy. It's kind of like a fantasy football league. You're adding a guy to your team that would be unavailable in any other circumstance. We know why he's here. We know what he must do to stay here. But you're adding a talent, one of the top 5 running backs in the league, to another one in Nick Chubb.
But Dustin, to your point, is this offensive line good enough to pave the way for an NFL leading running?
I think we'll find out. I mean, there's obviously the front office and Jon Dorsey didn't feel that strongly about how the right guard battle sort of ended at the end of training camp. But I think Freddie Kitchens, to a man would say he trusts Cush to at least start this game and go throughout the first maybe quarter of the season. We'll see. But the kid they traded for from Buffalo, Tyler Wyatt, comes in and is going to have a chance to compete. Nathan, I've heard you talk about this too, even on your show, that you think that maybe at some point this season he could be a starter at the right guard spot. I remember he started 7 games last year for Buffalo towards the end of the season, was a 3rd-round pick rookie for them. But we'll see. I mean, the fact that they had like 4 guys competing for the right guard spot, and it just, Cush just ends up winning kind of by default, that can't make you feel that great.
From a pass blocking perspective, when you have a quarterback back there that can get rid of the ball, that can make decisions quickly, you can kind of mitigate, right? Not a great pass blocking, but run blocking, you got to be able to throw down there.
Well, there are a couple of things. Number one, yes, you need to be physical, and Kevin Zeitler, who these guys are replacing, was absolutely one of the very best to play the game at the right guard position as a run blocker. He's a great pass blocker as well. But when you have a quarterback who you mentioned can get it out quickly, that sets everything up. Nobody can go out and there are no household names on the Patriots offensive line, and yet they've been one of the best in the league year after year because their quarterback makes good decisions and is where he's supposed to be in the pocket. Joe Thomas talked about it. He said that's 90% of the equation, believe it or not. The other thing that helps the ground game is Odell Beckham Jr. The days of 8-man boxes, 9-man boxes, daring the Browns to throw the football are over. Over. You have to pick your poison, and I think at the end of the day, a lot of times they're going to pick the poison of 5, 6, 7 yards from Nick Chubb over 50, 60 yards to Odell Beckham. And Nick Chubb last year against 7-man boxes was the best, most efficient running back in the NFL.
Like Wikipedia.
He's a Pro Football Focus
I
right
know.
here.
Let's go.
All right, coming up in the show, arguably the best group on this team, maybe the best group in the NFL. We're talking about the Browns defensive line plus the linebackers next on the Browns Countdown. Welcome back into the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Dustin Fox. They might not only be the best group on this team, they may be the best group in the NFL. We're talking about the Browns starting front four.
Yeah, that front four is ferocious, Dustin. It is nasty, and I feel bad for Marcus Mariota when they say, oh, no, sorry, Taylor Lewan can't play for you this game. When they come at it, you mentioned earlier the bookends, Garrett and Vernon inside, Richardson, Ogunjobi, who even last year with that one arm, 5.5 sacks. There's no reprieve, no reprieve.
Yeah, I've been talking on my radio show. If you have a chance to get a nice prop bet out there, if you end up going to Vegas or whatever, is
the window.
Take Myles Garrett for Defensive Player of the Year, and I think that's a strong chance that he could really have a nice year. Remember, 13.5 sacks last year, okay, and this year with the help of having Olivier Vernon on the other side.
There's no doubling either of those guys.
Not being held back by Greg Williams and his 2 pass rushing moves. I think you'll see Myles Garrett take his game to the next level. That's not a shot at Greg Williams. He took a shot
said
at
it. Yeah, Myles
Greg
said it.
Williams.
Absolutely.
Myles said it about Greg Williams. So we'll see what happens, but I do think that Myles could have north of 15 sacks easy.
There are very few lines in the NFL that have 5 quality linemen. It's a position that's just very difficult to play, and teams have been struggling with depth there. The Browns are going to have 4 guys that will require all 5 to be working at a high level, because if you double Myles and you only keep your block with your 5, that means 3 guys are one-on-one.
This is John. If you look at this defensive line, like no joke, this could be the starting defensive line in the Pro Bowl.
Yes.
And they've got depth all of a sudden too, because nobody this preseason was better than Devereaux Lawrence on offense or defense.
No. D nasty 99, 4 sacks in the preseason. He was the ¡1 pass rusher from a defensive line standpoint on any team in the preseason, according to Pro Football Focus. You add him into the mix. You've got the veteran Chris Smith on the outside. Jannard Avery, who had 4.5 sacks his rookie year, made that big play week 1 against Ben Roethlisberger in overtime that we all thought was winning us that game. And then, of course, Chad Thomas, the 3rd-round pick, had a nice camp, suffered that neck injury. But you're right, depth. Last year, Garrett and Ogunjobi led the NFL in snaps played at their respective positions. That's not going to happen this year. You're going to keep them fresh.
Yeah, a really good defensive line has 7, 8 guys that you can rotate through. You don't want your best players, your pass rushers, to be that tired. You don't want them to be gassed. You want them to be able to be at full speed 100% on 3rd down when they can just kind of pin their ears back and get after these quarterbacks here in the AFC North.
And nobody knows more about playing a high percentage of snaps than a couple of linebackers on this team, and Christian Kirksey and Joe Schobert. But again, this year now, a deeper linebacking core as well, starting with those 2 guys.
Well, it's clearly something that John Dorsey wanted to upgrade, because there are now 4 new faces in that linebacker room, joining Schobert, the Pro Bowler from 2 years ago, and Christian Kirksey. You draft Sione Takitaki in the 3rd round. You draft Mack Wilson. Actually, let me rephrase that. You steal Mack Wilson in the 5th round out of Alabama. You bring in a Darius Taylor, who's a special teams ace, was the special teams captain for the Buccaneers. And then Malik Jefferson, a 3rd-round pick a year ago for the Cincinnati Bengals. That's who they claimed at the 53. But this linebacking core, I think, has talent. And now with the strength of the guys in front of them, they're freed up to be playmakers.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point talking about the depth. The great news is, guys, is we don't have to force rookies to play.
Yeah.
You can allow Taki and Mack Wilson, who both kind of had moments in the preseason where they shined, but there still were moments where they're rookies, okay? And we were all excited about Mack Wilson's first game. He had the 2 interceptions against the Washington Redskins, but he kind of came back down to earth a little bit. You realize that these guys are rookies, and having those veterans and Schobert and Kirksey in front of them, and by the way, 2 of the best guys you can have in terms of helping bring the young players along. They're leaders, and they're unselfish football players, and that's going to be great for the growth and development of those 2 young linebackers.
All right, starting September 10th, you can catch Club 46 every Tuesday on the Browns YouTube page to see exclusive interviews with your favorite Browns alumni.
I played such a misunderstood position. You know, people just see a guy go out there and put a ball through 2 posts, and they think that's all there is to it.
Just then, Lyle Alzado bolts by us. He runs up the jetway and does a mosh dive pit out into the crowd.
I don't regret anything. I was able to take what they gave me and make the most out of it and become the best at it.
If you go back and look, you'll see I played most of the games. I got this big red streak running down the front of my jersey where I had knocked some teeth out and I couldn't take my mouthpiece out. So the team didn't say, keep it in, don't take it out.
The fans have been great, they've been respectful. I feel their pain. I hope they have a lot of joy because they deserve it.
Defensive backfield for these Browns. That's next to the Browns Countdown season preview. Welcome back to the Browns Countdown season preview. Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Dustin Fox. We've talked about the front 4. We've talked about the linebackers. Now Dustin's bread and butter. Let's go into
I'll take this, John.
Let's go into the secondary. Let's start with the corners. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, just look at who we have. I mean, we got the Buckeye, number 21, the former first-round pick, who was a Pro Bowler as a rookie last season, who I'm just looking forward to seeing him grow into one of the top corners in the entire National Football League. You got Money Mitch out there. You've got the young Greedy Williams, who will see some playing time this year. And again, back to the whole, hey, as a rookie, you don't have to play. I think it's fantastic that he's not going to be forced to start right away and have that challenge of being a lockdown corner early in his career. I love the depth of the position, but listen, I think it all comes down to Denzel. I mean, that is the cornerstone of our secondary. And there's a reason the Browns selected him last year so high, and they took him over a pass rusher. And the reason is because if you have a lockdown corner that can basically take away half the field, it allows you to do so much more as a defensive coordinator.
And the secondary really important this year. We're going to see 5 members of that secondary primarily this season.
You're going to see him on the field all the time, and T.J. Carey would be that fourth corner. He was your nickel a year ago and one of the better nickel corners in the NFL, and then they kept Javier Thomas as your 5th corner. A special teams guy was tied for the team lead last year. But you mentioned the DBs being on there. What Steve Wilkes likes to do is what he calls the big nickel, 3 safety. So we got Demarius Randall, who's a Pro Bowler in my heart and in my mind, and I think will be a Pro Bowler soon. You brought in the veteran Morgan Burnett as kind of your traditional box safety. But then you have Jermaine Whitehead, who went out and said, I'm going to figure out how to be that Buda Baker, that Shaq Thompson in this defense, and did it. And that was one of the biggest surprises, I think, this whole offseason, and it's not hype. He's going to play a lot, and he can come down, play the nickel, also play run support, but he can also play some free safety for you, as can Eric Murray, who was acquired in the trade from the Chiefs for Emmanuel Ogbah, and they love him too to play nickel, and it gives a lot of versatility. And on that back end, Dustin, when you have multiple guys who can come down and cover the nickel, can play that single high, but also play run support, doesn't it free up your defensive coordinator to disguise a lot of what he's doing?
It does. They call it hybrid, being a hybrid, and you can do more. And that's what Randall did a lot last year, but they didn't have anybody else that could do it last year. They didn't have guys like Randall who have the background in playing cornerback. And you're right. I think you're going to see a lot more of that, 4-2-5 defense.
Oh, yeah.
And they talk about this all the time. When you can make the offense adjust from the back end down as opposed to the front. I mean, the quarterback will come out to the line of scrimmage and kind of count the front and see what's going on. When you can disguise from the back end, it really puts a lot of pressure on that quarterback to make decisions And the disguise can be so good for a defensive coordinator. And when you have guys that are that versatile, it allows you to do that.
And not only that, you have a defense that likely can get home with just 4 a lot, leaving 7 in coverage. And how easy does that make your job on the back end?
My best friends were my defensive ends and my inside pass rushers when I was playing cornerback because, hey, listen, not every coverage is going to be perfect. You're going to be locked down against a man in man coverage, I should say. And, hey, sometimes you may get beat off the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you may be in a zone coverage and you got to get caught peeking in the backfield or something. And all of a sudden, your DN gets home and you're like, all right, I got
it's all good. Yeah.
Dinner's on me.
All right, coming up in the show, we're going to go around the AFC North. That's next to the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Welcome back to the Browns Countdown Season Preview. Nathan's got a fantasy draft going on right now.
It's like Adam Schefter over here.
I am trying to get it done right now.
Just leave it on the table.
Trying to get it done.
Jon Doss, Nathan Zegura, Dustin Fox. Let's go around the AFC North. If you're going to be the world's team, first you got to be the AFC North's team. And if you're going to be the AFC North's team, you got to take that away from the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And the Baltimore Ravens. You got to go and you got to own this division. And by the way, the reward for that is a home playoff game. Just saying, that's the reward for it. But look, this is a Steelers team in a little bit of a transition. No longer do they have Antonio Brown. No longer do they have Le'Veon Bell. By the way, the Antonio Brown part of it might actually be a good thing. I didn't think it was possible for me to believe that actually could be an addition by subtraction.
It is.
But maybe it is. They've got great young replacements in James Conner and Juju Smith-Schuster. Keep an eye on Vance McDonald. I think he is going to be a key to that offense as that receiving tight end.
Did you just draft him in your fantasy league?
I do have him in one, and I don't like it. I don't like to draft anybody that could hinder our Browns. I'm all in. If you don't wear brown orange, you don't matter.
You don't matter. I'll say this. Sorry, John. I still think that the Pittsburgh Steelers are the favorites and should be the favorites to win this division until proven otherwise. Now, that doesn't mean the Browns cannot win this division because they absolutely can. I predict them to win 9-10 games this season, but they have not won the division since they realigned in 2002. Okay,
right.
And the Steelers have won 8. Okay, so you still have to get past those guys. And I think that it's going to be a challenge this year. A lot of people are down on Pittsburgh. I'm not quite as down on them as everybody else. How can you not? I mean, they still have Big Ben.
Yeah.
They still James Conner and Juju, some of the top offensive players in the
offensive
NFL.
line.
Great line, and their defense is going to be nasty. I love their draft pick, the kid from Michigan, the linebacker.
When they drafted Devin Bush, I was so bummed because that was the one guy. You lose, not only we mentioned Bell and Brown, but they lost Ryan Shazier, who was a transcendent player.
That was a big loss for them.
And Bush is a guy who could maybe step in and fill some of those shoes.
What about this Baltimore team? It made the postseason last year, but it seems like a lot of people are overlooking the Ravens as well. Is it because nobody's believing in Lamar Jackson?
It's just a wild card because this is a guy that plays the quarterback position different than everybody else in the league. He's not the best thrower, but he's one of the most elusive athletes or playmakers in the league. Yeah. And when you hear John Harbaugh, my former coach, talk about how he wants to kind of change and make this position different than everybody else, is going to change the league, you perk up a little bit. You say, okay, what's Harbaugh have in mind for this team? I know they have a ton of guys to replace on defense, and they have a lot of losses just on offense too, but when you've got that guy quarterback, it's an absolute joker. You don't know what you're going to get.
It is wild to me. And the Ravens, it's kind of an experiment, and we'll see how it goes. The other team, the Bengals, we did what we had to do the Bengals last year. I think we'll do it again this year. And you feel bad for them. They're trying to rebuild, and yet every day it seems like another offensive lineman.
We're not feeling bad for
I don't really
any
feel
team.
bad.
We're the Browns here, okay?
Right. They do wear orange, so they like half matter, I guess.
No.
But not really. They don't matter at all. Their offensive line, every day you click on to ESPN, it's like a new guy is gone from that offensive line.
AJ Green
hurt in practice. Yeah. And he won't play at the beginning of the year. I just think it's going to be tough for them.
Is there going to be any concern, though, with Zach Taylor, new coach who comes from the McVay cloth, and anything McVay touches turns to gold, apparently? If you ask some people on Twitter, that's what people think. But we'll see.
I don't know if Sean McVay touched Andy Dalton.
Cleve getting a shout-out on the Browns show?
How about that?
All right, the Browns are hosting their Fantennial this Saturday. There will be alumni signing autographs, live music, food trucks, swagger, and many other family-friendly activities. The events will be highlighted by the unveiling of a statue to honor quarterback Otto Graham. Saturday afternoon at First Energy Stadium. Browns fans, show up with your families from 1 to 4 for all the festivities on Dog Pound Drive. Learn more at clevelandbrowns.com. Special teams and final thoughts coming up next to the Browns Countdown. Browns countdown, regular season just 4 days away. Don't forget, live pregame show this year used to be from 11 to noon. Well, you liked it so much, it's now 10:30 to noon.
Super
extra half hour for the Browns countdown live from First Energy Stadium at 10:30. We'll be joined by Gerard Cherry and Hanford Dixon. Welcome back.
FaceTime
into
for
the
you,
season
man.
preview.
That's
It's
good.
a lot of time for me.
That's good though.
And I asked for the one shots too.
That's right.
We need more. Jon Doss needs more
Exactly.
FaceTime on News 5.
We've already mentioned it. There it is, right there.
Oh, man.
We already mentioned it a little bit here. The kickers, Austin Seibert, the rookie. We don't know what we got going into regular season game number 1. At least with Greg Joseph, we knew a little bit about what we had. Austin Seibert, at least he looked like he came into his own there the last couple of preseason games.
Yeah, he goes 4 for 4 on field goals down in Tampa, including a 54-yarder that you see right there, which was the longest kick he's ever made. The guy's the all-time FBS scoring leader. He had been productive in college, and I think he just kind of was in a rut, got out of it at the right time, and finishes up making his last 8 straight kicks, extra points and field goals in a row.
By the way, that last kick was a 54-yarder. That would have been good from 70. I swear to goodness.
Big legs.
It was
Another 10
a
yards
monster
out of
kick. I think we'll look back, at least I hope we look back to that game and that kick, that 54-yarder, and then the 3 additional kicks to follow that and say, that was the moment where Austin Seibert took the job, got his confidence back, I should say, and then all of a sudden just takes off. That's why John Dorsey drafted him. I didn't love the pick, still don't love the pick. I don't believe in drafting kickers, but I'll give Dorsey a pass because he looked good the last couple games.
And that 54-yarder, that's when you decided you wanted him in a street fight, I'd imagine.
Obviously it was. Speaking of street fight, the other guy you gave me, Jamie Gillen, this is the surprise of the preseason.
This is the biggest surprise that happened, period, with this Browns final 53-man roster. Because everything else we were talking about, kicker was the most important battle because we thought it would directly impact, but everything else we were talking about was 5th and 6th receiver, 4th defensive tackle, 6th linebacker, 10th, 11th defensive back. And you had Britton Colquitt, who had been very, very good for you, a veteran, a guy who'd been to the Super Bowl, he's kicked in all the elements, etc. But they saw something special in the Scottish Hammer, and obviously everybody's focused on the tackles, but you really don't want your punter making tackles, having to make tackles. You want to set up your coverage, but the raw talent was something that they said, we need to cultivate this, and we believe in Mike Prefer. We absolutely have the right coordinator to get the best out of him.
Guys, I know that we were ready for the offseason, we were ready for the preseason and the regular season to get here, but it was a wild offseason, a wild preseason that the Browns really became the world's team.
That's right, the world's team, and now it's time to go out there and do it. And that's all we've wanted to see. It is now the time to exercise so many demons, like winning a season opener and just getting off on the right track. The time is now, Dustin. It's not on paper anymore.
It is, and listen, to be the world's team is a great thing, but eventually you start winning, people are going to start to hate you.
It's already happened and we haven't played a game.
It's incredible. But hey, listen, Sunday can't get here soon enough.
Browns get win number 1 Sunday?
Yes.
For Dustin Fox, Nathan Zegura, I'm Jon Doss. Thanks for watching the Browns Countdown Season Preview. We will see you Sunday.